Hello, and welcome back to another week of the DP World Tour picks and bets. Skylar, Hoke is here. Tom Jacobs. We now know the Ryder Cup squad for the European team after an amazing victory by Ludwig Aberg yesterday. What are your thoughts on the roster? What are your thoughts on the Omega European Masters this past weekend?
So I think thoughts on the European Masters is we were unfortunate with Bjork, Alex Fitzpatrick, right? Like I feel like we had a couple of good chances up there. So that's the first. Second, really pleased for Aberg. Like the one knock I've been giving him the whole way along is that like he has 3 good ones and 1 bad one, and this time he kind of transformed that, right? Like he actually grew into the event, which I really liked. I think he got better every single round, which is something you want to see and sort of save your best until last, I guess. So I really enjoyed that. I love the fact that he played himself onto the team because I think he was listening to what Lou Donald said earlier about how impressed he was with him at the Rocket Mortgage and what he did last week. I think he was probably going to pick him anyway. And I think there would have been way more of a stir if he didn't win this week than there is. Like, I think once he won, everyone was like, okay, that's fine. Like, he's on. So I think the biggest question came down to how do you leave Adrian Moronk out? And that was by taking Sepp Straka and Nikolai Højgaard, right? I had my comments about Shane Lowry, and you know, I stand by them. I don't think he was ever going to be off the team. That wasn't kind of the point of my tweet. I think he was always going to be on it. I just think that he's very fortunate to be on it. I get that the data kind of suggests that he should, and obviously they're a data-driven team, so fine. Do you take Sepp Straka over Moronk? I think is probably the question, because Nikolai is the course winner as well as Moronk. But Moronk has been first and second at that golf course. He's won 3 times since the qualifications, or at least since the last Ryder Cup. He's probably, well, we'll come on to this in a minute, I think going to have a good title defence. So I guess he just didn't do enough. Like ultimately, like there was a point during the European Masters where he could have actually got that final spot. He was actually ahead of McIntyre. So actually, the real damning thing, and this won't go down particularly well with some people, like it's probably McIntyre getting on automatically is probably what's caused the problem. Because I think if Moronk had gotten automatically and McIntyre missed out, I don't really care. I don't think this is a conversation.
Yeah, I think that's probably the point. I know there was conversation either that Bob could have been on the roster without it. I would have been hard pressed to see them pick him over Moronk. And
I think they would have done again, which is what concerns me. But like, at least then you can almost be outraged. Like there is nothing about that team today that you can be outraged about. Like I don't think you can go, I'm outraged that Sepp Straka is picked above Moronk, where you go, okay, well, he literally won. He's finished 2nd and 7th for the last 2 majors. I get that he probably hasn't been as committed to making the team as others, but he's a birdie maker, right? I do think Moronk is very hard done by. Like what? So you asked the guy to finish 1st and 2nd at the golf course and win 3 times, and that's not enough. Like he shot himself in the foot, like Ben Cody put it well on Twitter. Like he shot himself in the foot by going over to the PGA Tour, but that feels problematic. Like, so you're basically saying he was at fault for splitting his time across 2 tours and trying to chase the PGA Tour card. He might as well just committed to more PGA Tour stuff then. Like, I think he played half and half because he felt that was good for his Ryder Cup chances. Mathematically, it wasn't. He was obviously poorly advised, but like, I think he thought he was doing the right thing and kind of been shot in the foot.
What's kind of interesting though, when that angle is talked about, is he has a PGA Tour card right now because he's going to be one of the top 10 guys in the DP World Tour, right? So, I mean, Bob deserved.
He should have just played full Europe,
right? Bob took that and just stayed home, declined events, and I guess as hard as we have been on McIntyre, I'm extremely excited to see him in this element because of people that I have a chip on their shoulder and rise up to the occasion. He has on more than anybody else. I think that's really where, we made kind of selections of what we thought last week, and mine ended up aligning with how it worked out, leaving Moronk off. And it's just in the big time events, I haven't felt that Moronk has made himself in the mix as much as the other guys have.
And I think that's because he's been in and out. I think that's the issue. Like I think if he had committed fully to the PGA Tour or vice versa, he'd have been fine. I think the argument many people will be like, oh, is it a lack of ambition to have just stuck on the DP World Tour? Like I think Bob did it before, didn't do very well on the PGA Tour, and learned from that lesson and came back, right? Like, and I think Moronk is always going to take that opportunity, like, because if he wins on the PGA Tour, which was definitely in the realm of possibility at some point during this season, it's all taken care of because he gets the pick probably if he doesn't get on the points list. He has his PGA Tour card, regardless of how he's going to get that anyway from the top 10, right? But like, I think he just believed in himself so much that he thought he could contend on the PGA Tour and he didn't. So is that a negative? Possibly. I think at the end of the day, like I won't lose sleep over Højgaard being there over Moronk or Straka being there over Moronk. I can see like there is nobody else that's missed out that I think can go, I was hard done by. It's just him.
Well, because the other thing to me, in the course history angle of Marco Simone, like Moronk won when he was basically the favorite, right? I mean, it wasn't the entire Ryder Cup team there, right? I'm looking back on odds. Nicolai was 18, finishes 5th, 18-1. Moronk was 19-1, finishes, wins the event. Rasmus and Bob. It was an everyday run-of-the-mill DP World Tour event.
And I think he missed the cut the year that Rory and Fitz and that.
Correct. The year that it was actually like a little bit more pumped up. And then when he finished second, none of those guys were there again in 21, right? So
I think what it is like, and look, I get the strength of the schedule and strength of field size argument always in these conversations. I completely understand it. But in my head, I'm just sitting there thinking, like, realistically, Europe are going to go maximum matches for Rory, Rahm, Victor, Fleetwood, Hatton, I guess, right?
Aberg
is going to play. I imagine.
I think he's going to play right? 5.
So, like, does it really matter? Is the first question. Like, they're going to play like one match, and they're probably not going to win their singles anyway because they're going to be the underdog. In my head, I'm just sitting there thinking, like, my argument is like, if we lose, which according to the odds suggests we should, right? And there's a lot of discourse about that. If we lose, do we sit there and go, if Shane Lowry was here, we'd have won? And I think the answer is no. So the fact that he just had this kind of automatic pick, like he was blatantly told 3 months ago that he was in, I think. Like, I think that's what kind of rubs me the wrong way a little bit. He never played Marco Simone. Even in that year that Rory and Fitz played it, he didn't play it. So there is nothing about Shane Lowry that suggests to me that he'll be good at Marco Simone. Like, he's not even the off-the-tee prowess that he's been over the course of the season right now. So that concern, like, if I was to take Moronk versus Shane Lowry, Moronk versus Straka at Marco Simone right now, I'd pick Moronk, like in a head-to-head. So Shane Lowry needs to be a really important partner for someone. And maybe they think he's going to run it back with Hatton and be a great partner for him. And if that's what they think, and that's what Hatton wants, then that's where the importance of that pick comes in, right? But like, just from a pure, if you're looking at course figures and current form things, I don't see how you pick Lowry over Moronk. Well, it wasn't even Lowry over Moronk, but like, you leave Moronk out and then don't answer the questions about those other 4 guys, I think, or 3 guys that were fortunate to get over ahead of him.
Yeah, it would have been pushback no matter. I think the angles, it really would have been the loudest would have been leaving Lowry off the team.
Yeah, like I think as much as I'm sitting here advocating for Lowry potentially being lucky, I don't know how I'd react if he was just left off. Like, I think I'd still go, I can't believe you've left Lowry off for Straka, or you've left Lowry off for Højgaard. I think it would just trickle down, right? So I don't know that. I just think that my kind of take on it was kind of him. I felt that he was very similar to Justin Thomas in the fact that, like, they were always going to pick him regardless. And Justin Thomas has got this massive bank of Ryder Cup and President's Cup form. Every single time he's gone out there, he's kind of performed and done well and been a really good partner and been a really good singles player. And Shane Lowry hasn't done that, and he doesn't have a great match play record. So that's my argument for that. But negativity aside on Shane Lowry, I hope he plays 5 matches, gets 5 points. That'd be great. He is definitely the type of person that can rally a team. He's obviously popular in the dressing room. That's why he's there. Or locker rooms. That's why he's there, right? Does Nikolai play other than the singles?
I think everyone's gonna. I mean, they gave Byrne like multiple events.
But he was playing well before that, right?
I mean, I do. I think they're going to throw these guys out there. Like, I think Bob, of anybody, will be the one to play one match, and I still don't think he will. I bet they all play at least 2.
And I just yeah, fair enough. And I just wonder, like, so then I think the next question is who partners who. So to me, it's very obvious. You just go Rory and Aberg. Like he is a rookie. You need him to go with an experienced player, and it would be electric. I think I advocated for Rory and Hovland last time the most. Like, I'd like it to be Rory and Aberg again.
Send him out first. Yep.
Yeah, like Rahm isn't going to get Sergio, so who goes with him? I guess that's the next question.
Well, if you think Hatton Lowry is going to stay, then I want
which doesn't really seem to make. I think it would actually probably be Fleetwood, Lowry, Hatton, Rahm.
I want Sepp to be with somebody that can like fill it up and birdies and bunches, and kind of go that route. Like,
so he's going to be a 4-ball player, right? There's not really much.
Yeah.
I don't think to having him in foursomes. Like,
I would agree.
I think it's just right. Let's see if you can make a birdie on this hole when I can't, type thing.
Yes.
So
I don't know if you put him with like. Gosh, I couldn't even imagine him and Rahm in a group, but like.
No, but I think that's probably the most natural
kind of
fit.
Fun
they're
one.
both these kind of Europeans and not really Europeans that can both kind of do the same thing. I think. I think what we've done is we've probably picked the right players. I just don't know how it's going to work, and I think that's like before. You always had this kind of like Luke Donald play with Sergio, and then when Luke Donald was out of the team, it was Sergio and Rahm, and then it was. Kind of like, but like Lowry with Rory was this kind of obvious partnership, and they lost like 4 and 3 to Harris English and Tony Finau. So like the most obvious things don't seem to work. Like I just think that's like Fleetwood and Molinari, and like I get why their skill sets merge so well, especially on that course. But like I wouldn't necessarily have put them together at the start of the week. So you need to find that partnership that you go, okay, it wasn't obvious, but it now makes sense retrospectively, and this is what the result was. So. Look, I am just excited now. It's a great team. It's a good mix of veteran presence and thing, which is ultimately what he's done with picking Rose and Lowry, right? So, as much as what I'm saying about Lowry, people will say about Rose, I have arguments against that again with the 6 Ryder Cups and how he's played in all of them. But
he's played so much better this year too, I think.
And just been great in Ryder Cups. Like he's played 6 of them, and he's consistently delivered 2+ points. Like. I know 2+ isn't great in the last couple, but like 3, 4 in times. And I wonder who he'll partner with. Like, is he the type of person that gets a Straka? I don't know. Like, it's weird.
Yeah. I thought Luke said something interesting about Sepp when I don't think of his game that way. One, they thought the world of the Hero Cup. He mentioned the Hero Cup with like every player. Like,
I don't know if that's just like a marketing thing.
Yeah, it might be. But he said Sepp's a great driver of the golf ball, which, right? Like that's not the first thing that I think of with Sepp, but what he is, he's very accurate. He might be one of the more accurate guys now on the team. So is that a subtle hint that they are going to really like, Open de France, the Golf National, that type of style again this course? If they can get to this degree where it really matters, and Sepp can play into that. I don't know. It was just an interesting comment when I don't think of Sepp as
it did kind of pique my interest, because I think of him as just this kind of like great short iron player that just can make birdies out of nowhere. Right?
Yeah,
like,
I mean he's really good with his irons. His irons spike like crazy, but he hasn't lost the field accuracy since the RBC Heritage.
He actually gained strokes in almost, I think he's like 4 events since the start of 2023 where he's not gained off the tee.
Yeah, so he struggles chipping.
He's not. He's not wrong, right? Like he is actually probably is like. So then, does he put him with a Rose who's pretty good around the greens at times? Like, it's an interesting one. It's a hard job, and that's why they're employed to do it. I'm excited. I had my kind of thoughts. I think Veronk is very unfortunate, but you have to leave someone out. And I think the best thing that I can say about it is like the conversation 6 months ago was who on earth is going to help us? Like,
yes,
oh
absolutely.
my God, like it might be Rye, it might be Seamus Power. And now all of a sudden it's like we've got an embarrassment of riches for this kind of 12th pick. So it's a good problem to have.
Yep, agreed. All right, 15 minutes in, we can transition over to the week ahead of us, but want to make sure first we give a shout out to our audio listeners. You can find us at Daily Fantasy Sports Picks and Bets, The Mix, on YouTube at Mayo Media Network. Like, review, subscribe, all the different things you can do to support us on both of the platforms. Last week, Tom, doing the betting and DFS preview, it was one of our biggest weeks of the entire year. And that was because probably, there wasn't a ton else in the sports world happening. So we got the big prize pool was 100K to first, 20K to first, and a higher dollar one. And they've repeated that this week. We have a 50K to first contest and then another 20K. So I'm excited to see that. But one thing that is going to catch a little bit more of eyeballs this week is the NFL is back. I'm supporting my Run the Sims hat here. You can use promo code Mayo over at our friend Justin Freeman's site, Run the Sims. They've unleashed their new contest Sims, which is the Sim Runner Pro. Huge fan of that site and the limited football knowledge that I know. They make things so much easier. So supporting Mayo Media Network with that partnership of Run the Sims, promo code Mayo for that will go a long way as football kicks off here in the States this week. But we are still focused for us on the stretch run up to the Ryder Cup. And this week is the Irish Open at the K Club. So we talked about weaker fields, of interesting fields, of what it could be. This week is we're seeing the loaded up of the European side. Yep. Rory McIlroy, Tyrrell Hatton, Shane Lowry, even have Adam Scott, Tom Hoagie, Billy Horschel coming over. You have Seamus Power supporting kind of in his home event. Ryan Fox, there's so many golfers that you don't get a typical week. So I think it's going to be very interesting from a DFS angle. We're going to preview that tomorrow, myself with Ryan Baroff in Axis. We're going to do that tomorrow. But today we're going to focus on the betting just like we did last week. You and I came awfully close. Like you said, I think we had a couple more back nine birdies in us, and it could have been some victories and maybe changed up the Ryder Cup team. But let's talk about the K Club. We haven't seen this since 2016. Former Ryder Cup venue. It's the Palmer North course. What are your thoughts on way to attack this week?
Yeah, so it's weird. Like the Irish Open is one of those ones that just doesn't want to go back to like a true links test. Like it just keeps coming back to these inland links, and I'm fine with it. Like I think we see enough links golf in kind of Dunhill links, Open, Scottish Open, right? I think they've probably looked at it and just thought that. I think it's just all about greens and regulations and accuracy, strokes gained approach, right? I think like obviously what you do off the tee is important as it is every week, but I think it's negated somewhat and brings kind of the whole field in. And I think it's just generally, fire at these pins, make the birdies that you need to make, stay out of trouble. Look, the last three winners on this golf course have led the field in greens and regulations. So Rory McIlroy in 2016 at the Irish Open, and then Kenny Ferry and Philip Price in the European Open back in the day. So, there has been people that have won with poor green and regulations. Westwood did it when typically the great greens and regulation player has actually just putted really well. So I think the stats could be slightly skewed there. But I think ultimately what we're looking for, Sky, is someone that has generally done well on these Irish Open layouts that are not the links ones. And just impressed, like the Lucas Herberts, the people like that, Adrian Ronk last year, right? I think that form in Ireland, in the Irish Open in particular, is ultimately what you're looking for, regardless of which course. I think it holds up pretty well.
Yeah. Not much to add and agree. I love that green and regulations tab, focusing on irons. It isn't the true links test I would have loved to see. I can think vividly of that Lucas Herbert win a few years back in some conditions and playing so well. But no, it's fun. We always do get these Ryder Cup venues kind of coming back over to what the Belfry kind of reminds me somewhat. We've seen some correlation leaderboards. I know you were tracking a little bit of corollary leaderboards too. Is there any courses for you that jump to comparison?
Yeah, weirdly, Crans. Like there's just a ridiculous amount of layover, and I don't know if it's just similar times of year or just the high quality players that have done it in the past. But Bradley Dredge had finished second here in 2016. He'd won at Crans. Graham Storm second at both. Westwood won at both. Constantina Rocca had won at Crans second here. Bjorn won at Crans second here. Jimenez won at Crans second here. Barry Lane second here, won at Crans. Matthias Gromberg, winner of both Crans and the European Masters here. Per Ulrik Johansson, two-time winner here, back to back, and then fourth at Crans. So for whatever reason, it's stood up pretty well. I don't know necessarily if there's anything to it, but I think it's the same kind of formula, right? Like hit it close, make the birdies. Rory won 12 under by 3 strokes, so that will give you kind of an insight as to what to kind of expect scoring wise. I don't think it'll be too dissimilar. So yeah, I think there's something in that. It helps that it was last week. I think that ultimately, if you're just playing well and hitting your irons well, you'll be able to take advantage of this golf course.
Yep, totally agree with you. When you look at the odds boards, this isn't something we've seen. Man, when's the last Rory McIlroy DP World Tour event, right? He's plus 320 is the best spot.
Yeah, I guess that was back in like the Middle East swing, like when he
beat Reed, right? So just seeing 3-to-1s is a little bit of stark change. I almost even felt that way that Matty Fitzpatrick kind of owned an odds board last week, but really seeing somebody at 3-to-1. Jarring to start. Us from a betting perspective. I think I'm going to lean a little bit more into the places for my card as we go along, just due to the star-studdedness, right? You have Rory at plus, I guess 350 is the longest. Hatton, you can get him 11-to-1. Scott 22. Minwoo 20. Lowry is also 20-to-1. Those guys command the market up top. But we're choosing to lay off those guys. But we can dig into them tomorrow on the DFS show, which one when their salaries are released. But your betting card starts just beyond there. You're going with the 13th man, Tom. Tell us why Edwin Murat can repeat.
Yeah, it'd be very easy for me just to say, I'm betting him because he's going to stick it to Luke Donald and the European Ryder Cup team. I think that is definitely part of it. I think when you looked at his story he posted with good luck European Ryder Cup on a black screen, seems pretty like he's pissed. I happen to think he was potentially told he was going to be on it, and then Aberg just did what he did, and that might be what happened. I feel like he probably always knew with Bjorn in the vice captaincy that Højgaard was going to get that pick, and he just assumed he'd be the other guy. And I think you can be a bit scorned by it. Like we saw it with Freddie Couples and Cam Young. Like sometimes there's some miscommunication, right? So I think there's potentially something to do with that. But he was inside the top 7 in greens and regulation for 3 of his 4 rounds last week. He was 15 strokes gained approach. 3 of his 4 rounds were really good. And his Irish Open form is 10th miscut first. So just based on that, just on how well he hit the ball last week, the fact that he played really well in Ireland, he has won. This is the first title of his 3 that he's going to try and defend. So we haven't got any prior knowledge to say he's not great at defending titles or whatever. I think he potentially do very well. Look, the conversation turns, Sky, I guess, when we talk about the fact that he's been pretty poor in majors, and when we talked about that one Marco Simone where he missed the cut was when kind of Rory and Fitz and that kind of came along, and that's the concern, that he hasn't yet shown that he can step up in that kind of field. I think this is where it changes. I think that this is the first time he's kind of come in knowing that this is the type of event that he can win. He has won it in the past. Yes, Rory McIlroy is going to be there. I think Rory McIlroy's got other things on his plate. He's got the Ryder Cup to look forward to. He's got kind of, I don't know if he still hosts it, but he's definitely obviously going to be a big part of it if he doesn't host it. Moronk hasn't got a vice captain to impress anymore. That bit's done. So freewheeling a little bit. It's time for him to get back to his game, and I think he can definitely contend for the win again this week.
Yeah, I'm nervous in the sense that the Ryder Cup is everything in this moment. There's nothing ahead of this, right? He has a PGA Tour card wrapped up. He has. It's just pure spite, or is it like I'm pulling the plug and I'm done?
I think the only thing I think with that is that, like, if he was pulling the plug and he was done, like Nikolai's already pulled out this week.
Yeah.
I don't know why he wouldn't. So, like, I think there's definitely enough in him that goes like, I'm really going to show you made a mistake, and you're going to put me on the team next time because this is how I react to it. Look, it's all kind of hearsay until it happens, right? Like, I can sit and say what I said about Shane Lowry over the past like 10, 15 minutes at the start of the show, and then he wins either this week or Wentworth, and it changes everything, right? So what you probably want now as a Ryder Cup, European Ryder Cup fan, is Shane Lowry or someone to kind of win coming into this. Rose maybe at Wentworth. I just think Ronk is here still to prove that he can win, take some winning form into the PGA Tour next season, and prove that he is still one of these better players.
Yeah, no, I'm totally understanding of that angle. And I mean, at some point there has to be some self-motivation and you're showing up anyway, right? So if you're going to do this, like there is that side of it. So can see with him. For me, I'm still a bit down the board. Your next selection is, I've really debated, I guess there's two golfers that, one in particular that I was very, very close. And I guess not even if you made some type of point, could find room on the card. I really wanted to bet Billy Horschel, what we saw the last two events of the year. Why wouldn't we be on Horschel? You can get him as long as 45 to 1. So if you compare him against some of the other guys, now he had a awful PGA Tour year, literally until the last two events. So I guess that's the true reason why. But man, his irons upticked that last time out. He was a bad putter away from beating Lucas Glover at that Wyndham Championship. I'm a little worried he could be popular in DFS if it's a good price, so I don't get a sneaky play there. But man, I'm close on Billy.
He was the one. I probably had 3 that I left out, and he was probably the toughest one. I just believe that when he comes over here, he's one of the better players, and believes he's one of the better players, and does it sneakily. I just hope he has a pretty average week, and then it's the same sort of price as Wentworth next week, where I know he can win.
I guess that's more his cup of tea.
Yeah, but I guess if he's good at Wentworth, he should be good at this type of course. Like it's similar sort of thing. So the thing you're being asked is to take him this week, not knowing how good he's going to be in Ireland, and then all of a sudden, he's 14 to 1 next week because he played really well. So look, I think if you're a Billy Horschel fan, which I am, you should be seriously contemplating, if you're not going to play him betting wise, you should definitely look at him for DFS, which you can discuss tomorrow. But everything points to him having a good week, I think. Yeah, that's I'm hard pressed right there, and I have a spot, so we'll circle back as we go through it. I mean, if you keep running yourself down kind of the outright boards overall, I mean, you get into the range here of next would be, and there was the angle after you said Meronk Spike, Mackenzie Hughes and Ryan Fox come to mind after not making the President's Cup team and then winning within like the next couple of starts. So there is that chip on people's shoulder. Bjork is back 33 to 1. Again, an iron test. He's another.
He could be.
Yeah, he's the other. So the 3 people I left out were Horschel, him, and then your first pick.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to hearing what you say on him. But yeah, I think Bjork has done everything like that you could have expected from him, and he just isn't winning because Alex Bjork doesn't win right. So I think from a complete each way value, from a DFS point of view, he should be definitely in lineup. So I just think that win equity, like what I saw from him when he was in the contention again this weekend, wasn't that promising. Yeah.
So I guess we'll run it over because there's pick of the litter in that 40s, 50s. It's way better than what it is normally on a week, right? You have Ryan there, you have Power in there, you have Tom Hoke in there, who I was also very close on because I think if you think of some of the better iron players on the PGA Tour, until the latter stretch of the PGA season, Hoagie was that guy week in and week out, right? So I think he's a very sneaky one that I'll talk about tomorrow if you get a good price. But it's hard for me to keep off, and I will be betting at 55 to 1 this week. What I think is, bang on one of the best form players right now in the world, and that's Alex Fitzpatrick. Back 9 in contention for what you'd probably say. I guess he wasn't not in the mix at the ISPS, right? But this felt like his to really get to, and just bogey free on Sunday, but nothing on the back 9, not a single birdie. Really could have been the Aberg type of what ended up happening. And that aside, he's got to be breathing such a sigh of relief of what his life looked like 2 months ago and what he's turned into, right? He's got a full DP World Tour card, no problem. He is now one of the better, probably if you had to power rank the top 10 guys next year to get a PGA Tour card, he is in there. And we're getting him at good prices, in my opinion, still. And at a course that isn't something that's going to be overpowered. I think it plays more into his favor. Once again, you mentioned Kranz being a potential link. Irons in, he's excellent. He's just, middling off the tee almost always, if not losing to the field. So to me, I just can't, when I look at that form, leave him off this week.
Yes, the ultimate reason I did leave him off was that, and look, you have to consider the fact he played very well last week. He's the same price as last week, but with Rory McIlroy, Tyrrell Hatton, Shane Lowry, Minwoo Lee, Ryan Fox, etc. in the field. So that's my one concern. I think the second concern was one of the reasons I picked him was that Matt Fitzpatrick was very definitely going to be involved in some description over the week. Yeah. And I felt that he would be comfortable in a situation where he had to take on his brother, and he didn't look it. I know he wasn't paired exactly with him, but he was terrible off the tee. When it really mattered. That concerned me. Other than that, I think as an overall player, when you look at in the recent weeks, he's probably just Alexander Bjork, but without the kind of scar tissue. So he's been great, and I think the upside for Alex Fitzpatrick has definitely changed from I think we were always pretty high on him, but I think certainly in my head he's elevated beyond what I thought last year. So I think you're probably still getting value on him. I just worry that if he struggled in that sense with Matt there, why is he going to be any better with Rory or Hatton or whatever in the mix? Now, that obviously involves one of those two being in the mix for that to even matter, is the first question. So if you don't think they're going to be in the mix, they're just kind of one eye in the Ryder Cup, then it doesn't really matter. I think if it comes down to Lowry, Minwoo Lee, Scott's, obviously been a while since he's really been in contention. Then you've got the kind of Rise and Bjorks. I think he's fine against all of those. To your point, is he going to be great against Billy Horschel head to head on a Sunday? I still have slight concerns. So whereas I think it's not panic stations like a Bjork who's shown it for 20 events that he can't get the job done, I was slightly concerned about the Sunday. Yeah,
I do get it. I did focus on adding points and placement as much as possible. Yeah. And the book that does offer 6 each way places this week at 1/5 the odds. That's where the Fitzpatrick 55 is. And that's where actually all of my cards are this week, because I'm just prioritizing place opportunity with that top of the leaderboard. And I think we have to when you have a Rory teeing it up.
Yeah, if you're a UK listener for this and you do like Fitzpatrick, just take the 10 places and take 40 to 1 or 8 places and 45 to 1. I think he definitely represents value. I think when you put him against a Dietrich or a Rosner or a Yannick Paul, we'll all have the same kind of questions. I do like Jordan Smith to a certain extent, so I'm intrigued by that one. But I think he's rightfully where he is in the field and should be there. So. In terms of just course fit, again, probably a good one.
Yeah. Yep. Nope. Excited for him. It is interesting also if you keep on the PGA Tour side. Vincent Norman is teeing it up this week. Winner at the Barbasol, and he's deeper than Alex Fitzpatrick this week. He has not missed a cut, I guess, since the Travelers. They call him the Candy Man, and his iron play has been spiking, I guess you could say, fairly enough, right? It's not what I think of with him. I think of him I would love him teeing it up at that number at a course where you can let it rip.
I think he's better in a typical Irish Open, what you think a links thing. If he comes to Dunhill Links, I'd be really intrigued. He has spotted his irons, and that's what kind of as soon as he won, it was almost like everyone was off of him because they don't believe he's going to win 2 times in a season. And that was when I kind of felt like I should take him, and he wasn't great in those. I think he had a middling finish again straight after 25th or something like that. I think he's a really high end talent who just is probably in the wrong course, maybe. But I don't think the Barbasol necessarily lined up as the perfect course for him either. So he's obviously overcome that.
What's man, if you would have like asked me, well, I mean, we had the discussion on the show 2 years ago
Yeah.
when him and Aberg were getting spot starts when they were both in college, right? I mean, I would have been right there with what Norman was showing off the tee. It was better than Aberg at the
Yeah.
time, you know. So that was one thing that I didn't mention when we talked, Ludwig, is I should have, not I should have. Happens, or looking back is so easy, but he has played well at courses where you wouldn't have anticipated it.
Yeah.
His best finishes this year now Omega.
Yep.
And you liked it just the number of purposes and like now getting a chance, but Omega, Wyndham, and John Deere have been his 3 best times of the year. So maybe his driver is just that good that when other people can't take advantage of it, right? Like he's still. I mean, they said it today, right? Like, and Justin Ray tweeted about it. Like, he's potentially the number 1 driver in the entire world. So no matter where he goes, he might just be able to take these lines that people aren't doing. And I thought Norman was that guy 2 years ago.
Yeah. No, and Donald said it in his thing about Aberg. He said, look, if statistically he played enough events, he's the best driver in the world. Like, that's very clearly high on it. And I don't know. Like, I think Aberg's probably gone to another level already than Norman. But, like, is there going to be that much difference? I think we had the conversation about, like, when Nikolai and Rasmus, and everyone was so high on Rasmus. And I said, like, it'll probably kind of, I think you said as well, like, it'll probably, like, find its level at some point, and they'll probably be not too dissimilar. Like, there's no reason to think that Norman can't elevate his game. If anything, he's taken the harder route. That's pretty unfair because Aberg's only really played PGA Tour events. But, like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I think he's got a great skill set. I just don't know if it's here. But like you say, it's been the case for Aberg. So, interesting to see for sure.
That rounds out. I guess, like I said, James Power is here too in this
Do
area.
Do we care about James Power anymore?
No, not
like
that one.
Like literally, he might be the most disappointing person to have ever been in that race.
It was bad. I mean, I guess he got hurt, right? He won and then he got hurt.
Yeah.
I think that's probably. Did he?
He hurt the whole time though, or was he just hurt for like 1 week and then we just give him an out? Like, he was 13th for the John Deere Classic, 19th for the Byron Nelson, 18th for the Wells Fargo. Like, he had a little stretch where he just ejected.
Yeah, I'm trying to double check. He listed. He has actually withdrawn from the event too.
Oh, there you go. So great. So
we don't even need to discuss it.
We don't even need to worry about it.
Perfect. All right. It segues into when we start picking again. Yeah. You've got a duo here before your favorite selection of the week. So why don't you go into those two?
Yeah, look, I think Thorbjørn Olesen was the last person I put on my card, but also potentially the one I'm kind of most intrigued by. He's played in 9 Irish Opens, and he's finished inside the top 18 in 6 of them. 3 of those were top 10s, and one of them was at this course in 2016. So for whatever reason, he loves Ireland. He loved this golf course back in 2016. He's probably playing a little bit better than people think. Like, he's had 3 top 25s in his last 6 starts. He was 3rd at the halfway mark at the British Masters, 25th in a really strong field at the Scottish Open, and then 10th going into the final round at the Czech Masters. So whilst he was only 40th last week, he actually led the field in greens and regulation. And it was ridiculous. Like, I think he nearly hit 100% of the greens in one of the rounds. So I'm really impressed with that, just from a statistical standpoint. I think just from when I think of people that can step up, if we have our doubts about someone like Moronk, I don't think we have those about Olesen. Like, he's shown over his career that he can step up in really strong fields. He has done it multiple times. And look, he averaged 84% of greens, 77%, 94%, 83%, 83%. So all week he kind of lived peppering those greens, and obviously didn't hit it close enough because his strokes gain approach numbers weren't incredible. And normally that means you haven't hit it that close. But I just think the way he's been playing is slightly under the radar, and he's a winner and someone that's played very well in the Irish Open in the past. So Thorbjørn Olesen for me, I think is a great pick.
Yeah, you've been one to kind of just stick on him and his prowess, and he's been sneaky, just consistent and very strong. I think a lot going in that manner in a different price range of what we have seen him too.
He was the only person I ever made a bet on to make the Ryder Cup team, and clearly it didn't play out, but like he was 14-1, like I think the week before he won. So, look, I believe a lot in his talent. I think that he's been able to rededicate himself and get himself back into a really good mind space. And yeah, we'll see what that leads to at the Irish Open, which has been good to him over the years.
Yep, 100%. Okay. Next up, a guy that I was very close on, Juice Luton. Again, I think it's 3 top 7s in a row on the DP World Tour for him. 70-1 ends up making your card, and tell us why.
Yeah, it's he didn't. He's had 3 top 8s, hasn't he? But he had that kind of little stretch in between with the Open and the Scottish where he wasn't great, and that's the slight concern, right? So he had the second at the BMW International Open, which I wouldn't necessarily peg him for as successful there. He was a 54-hole leader. He was a 54-hole leader again at the British Masters. Very similar Sundays. I think he shot 74 on both of them, finished 2nd and 8th. And then he was 5th last week at Crans, but final round 65 this time, inside the top 12 going into the final day. So again, the concern is, well, when he played the Open and the Scottish Open, he wasn't that great, but he had a couple of decent rounds in both of them, which was fine. He made the cut in both, stronger fields. And again, just another person I trust to play well in Ireland. And when you look at his iron play, it's been exceptional. Which is, he actually, if you break it out to 15 weeks, just on raw data, he leads the field in strokes gained approach. He's had 4 top 7 performances in strokes gained approach, 2 more top 20s, and then in those Open and Scottish Opens, he's been kind of like 43rd and 51st. But I don't really mind. Like, he's not expected to do well in the Scottish Open and the Open Championship, right? So not too worried about that. You look at his kind of history in the Irish Open. He's got a 9th, a 2nd, and 11th. So happy with that. He's a 54-hole leader. 54-hole leader again at the Irish Open, where he shot final round 74. We're seeing a pattern with Joost Luiten. 74 must be the worst score he likes to write down on the scorecard. But yeah, I just this is probably a little bit of a placement play for me. I think that it's more each way value than it is a win. I would be slightly concerned. I think potentially he could be a 54-hole leader and shoot 74 and finish 6th. But the upside is there. Like, we know he's actually a DP World Tour winner. We know he's come to an island and he's hitting his irons really well. So Joost Luiten for me at 70-1 was great, just behind Olesen at 66.
Yep, absolutely. Can make a good argument. I was excited when your card showed up, and you were emphatic, even on Sunday, that this was going to be your bet of the week here with Eddie Pepperell at 80-1. Eddie played this event in 2016, in a year where miscuts and DQs were more frequent than top 10s, and finished 8th at this event, never leaving the top 10. Right, just as steady Eddie as it could be. And he has shown himself after kind of, I would say, falling off a little bit of form, leading into, I guess, the Himmerlin British Masters Scottish, coming back with a 3rd place, 39th at the Czech Masters, which included incredible irons, and then last week 8th place finish, which again with very, very good iron play. Eddie comes to the mind always to me when it's a course that isn't going to be overpowered. It's something where you're going to play from the fairway. You're going to need accuracy. And I was kicking myself after seeing him play so well early on in the week, thinking, man, you saw the spike at the Czech Masters. Omega made so much sense. We're getting a chance again at another good number here.
Well, look, I said last week that Eddie Pepperell should be good here and hasn't, and that's why I didn't bet him. Like, then maybe there's just something he can't get his head around the course, and he got his head around it. And I think that in itself is enough reason. Like, he's clearly playing so well now that any inhibitions he had about courses he's not played well at in the past, he can get over. When he was 8th here in 2016, it was the year after he lost in a playoff to Soren Kjeldsen at Royal County Down. So he just loves the Irish Open. The fact that he was 8th last week, and the fact that he's been 8th, 4th, and 5th his last 3 weeks in strokes can approach 1st and 5th before that when he's made the weekend. His iron play is just exceptional. We know the issue with Eddie Pepperell is off the driver. It has been for a number of years, but 2nd, 4th, and 8th in the Irish Open in the past, in good form, in good spirits. He's tweeting again, which is always a good sign for Eddie Pepperell. I think this has come at the perfect time for him. It's a good 2-week stretch for him at the Irish and then Wentworth.
Yeah, 100%. And I included, I think there might be hundreds out there that didn't have the places with them on Eddie. Again, prioritizing for me, so I'm happy with the 80s there with it. And we enter triple digits. Tom, you actually have the longest guy on your card of the week, which I'm so impressed on.
Yeah.
So impressed. And I held off. I typed in 1,000 to 1. I'll mention his name. I'm not going to bet him.
I'm surprised your one isn't as big as mine. That doesn't fill me with confidence. I'm surprised your long shot isn't as big as mine, but we'll see what happens at the end of the week.
For sure. So a duet of golfers that are coming, on a weekly basis right now for us. One, I mean, if there's any golfer that shoots a 63 and a 61 in 1 week, and then opens up triple digits the next week, Tom, everybody's running to the podium to bet that guy. And I've already seen it on multiple betting cards this week, right? It just makes sense. And when that guy is Guido Migliozzi, I mean that's a double, triple hammer. You know,
he was so impressive. Like, I think, it's funny because actually when you listen back, they were showing some of the old footage of when Donald first took the kind of Ryder Cup captaincy and what it meant to him, and he referenced Guido. Like, he was very much on his radar. Obviously that kind of played out when he started the season poorly, but I think you kind of alluded to the fact there was maybe some distractions that kind of led to that, right? 2 missed cuts in the Irish Open so far, but we know he's this kind of mercurial talent that can just build off good weeks, right? And the like you say, 61 and 63 is just wild, and to do it when actually not everyone was shooting that low was really impressive. And I think that's what Guido does, is he goes and shoots the score that people don't think's out there, and that's the kind of biggest asset he's got. The problem he's got at the moment is he can't do it for 4 rounds, but if he was doing it for 4 rounds, it'd be 40 to 1. So that's what you're taking is looking at the kind of round by round stuff, like at 61 and the 63. What does that count against the kind of 72 and 71 that let him down, I guess?
Yeah, if he shoots field average on that day, it's 19 under, and that's tied with Aber, right? Like that's in the cards. And his Thursday was awful. He could not hit a green to save his life. And the rest, even his Saturday, which wasn't good, he still hit better irons. It was very good progressive iron play, ended up gaining strokes in all 4 categories. And like I said last week, I mean, he has had a consistent stretch of golf where he has yet to, since the Porsche European Open, miss a cut, included really good play at the British Masters outside of Sunday, BMW International. So Guido has definitely turned a corner overall. So excited for him, and at the hundreds, more than happy to take it. The only thing that hurt worse 2 weeks ago than not having Sean Crocker on the betting card would be if we didn't bet him this week and he won. For those that didn't see the story, Sean Crocker withdrew when everybody and his brother was on him it wasn't the ISPS, was it? It was the ISPS. It was
it's Checkmate.
Oh, check. Yeah. Where everybody was on him in a big number of withdrawals because he pulled a DJ, which was fall down the stairs and hurt his shoulder.
I'm also not convinced by that.
Well, it was odd because he was at the truck like an hour before that, right?
That's essentially like you told me he withdrew, and I was like, well, he's like looking at putters. Like what? Yeah. So I guess it probably is right. Like he probably fell out of the truck steps. But yeah, now go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
So he says precautionary withdrawals from this past week, and then the check. And what's interesting though, he's been posting that he's been out on the golf course, and then this morning said, first time in like my career that I'm the first guy on the range. So I think he's antsy to get back to playing. If you remember when we bet him at the Barracuda, still mad he should have won that event. He played really, really well outside of one day, trending irons, popping, a lot of signs for us after we were very early kind of on his renaissance back to some decent play. So just do not want to forget.
Comment is actually, when someone thinks they're saying something positive, when he says, first time in my career, I'm the first one on the range, and he thinks that shows how hard he's working. Does that not say for 20 years you've never been working that hard?
I mean, yeah,
unless he's like been second and third on the range every time, and it's just that he literally said this is the first time I've been number one. Like, I don't know, but like, sometimes people give themselves a pat on the back, and I'm like, well, that doesn't sound good for you. And
first time in 7 years and first on a range on a Monday. You think I'm excited to be back, is what it said. Yeah.
Yeah, like I think that's not like you should probably be on first on the range more often, especially when you're not playing very well. Like I wonder if something like he does look like the type that there is a little bit of lack of commitment sometimes. Like I think he enjoys life. I think he definitely enjoyed life after he won. And I don't hate that. Like I think that's why you get these 100 and 150 to 1 numbers about Sean Crocker. If he dedicates himself to the game, which I think he will at some point, I think he's this 28 to 1, 30 to 1 goal for every week, which is why we like him so much.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I'm super excited for him this week. Last 150 to 1 for Crocker, and then the next pick here again with the 6 places. There's 200s on both these guys, but I prefer getting the extra one. It's Sebastian Soderberg. So a frequent, I think, conversationalist on betting cards, trying to catch the Soderberg week. I've never really looked to nail him. I haven't had any success in that. But what I thought was incredibly interesting, if you look through his numbers, right? A former winner at Omega, 24th last week. I believe he was second in ball striking in total. I know this just because our friend Ryan Baroff just loves to sweat Soderberg. And when you looked through his tee to green round, what was interesting? So if you are,
I've got him as 5th.
Okay, so 5th.
So still great. I'm sorry to keep interrupting, but I'm just
No.
I'm just reading as we're going along.
Right. I think that's important to distinguishing. Can't say that right. But overall, I mean, if you look at him from the week, 24th place finish, and then you look at how good he was gaining strokes off the tee, how good he was gaining strokes approach, right? It was a very, very solid week overall from the ball striking standpoint. You go through it, he had 3 balls out of bounds in the week. So to have those numbers while putting 2 balls out of play on the 6th hole, which is the easiest hole on the golf course, right? So to have that, and then I think he put a par 3 in the water when he tripled on like Friday. I just think the tea leaves of how good that iron play must have been is, incredible. I mean, 365, giving us also last week, there had to be an issue with some of those people that were inputting the short putts because there was so many 2-footers missed. It was such a
so annoying. I remember watching Fitzpatrick and he was like, oh, he's hit to 4 feet, like 3 feet or something. And all of a sudden it went, oh no, he's 7 feet away. I was like, oh good, like you've obviously tracked the wrong ball. So yeah, people weren't hot on it in crayons.
No, but there were so many miss shorties. But I just think enough. I mean, Soderberg has been, somebody who, 10th at the Barracuda. I think he was 13th with the stroke play. That Italian Open was 9th. He had a second earlier in the year. Like, it is somebody where he finds a leaderboard every so often. And I think continuing a ball striking league like that will be difficult to follow. Yeah. But at 150 to 1, I like the chances.
Yeah, and I think like when his greens in regulation is what let him down on the ball striking department, and you've explained why, it's because he's put a couple of out of bounds. And like, I guess when the strokes gained approach number is still so high and the greens in regulation is lower, I envision somewhere like Crans where he's trying to attack that pin and he's 3 inches off on the fringe. It's not green in regulation, but it's actually the right play. So like those things are definitely things you can get. Whereas like Ollison hit every green, but he might be 50 feet away. So like it's always important to get context right, and you've added it there, which I think is great. Just a little bit of extra context for Soderberg, which I think actually helps. When he was 41st in the Irish Open on debut, he was actually 19th after round 1 and 12th after round 2, and just had a bit of a poor weekend. Same last year, 4th after round 2, 19th after round 3, and fell away on the final day. So twice now he's gone into the Irish Open weekend with legitimate chances of contending 12th and 4th and kind of falling away 41st and 46th. But there's obviously something about these courses and these type of events that suggests that Soderberg can play well, and building that off a really positive Iron Week, great.
Yep, absolutely. I'll go right into my last one then, because again, you were the longest guy this week. I am betting Connor Purcell. So Connor Purcell, he's a Challenge Tour regular. I think he's popped up and down for a couple starts. He actually was 7th at the Australian Open earlier this year. Gets about 1 DP World Tour start a year. He was cutting his teeth a little bit on the MENA Golf Tour, as well as the Nordic Golf League he's played in. He's played on the Alps Tour and done well and competed. And this is his second season now with a full DP World Tour card, which started with 7th and 6th in South Africa. And then two events ago, he had his best finish of the year, which was a second at the Dormy Open. So if you look at Connor Purcell, 26-year-old Irishman, Purcell, I guess this course in particular isn't one that's really been seen in now 7 years, right, of play overall. And there was a Challenge Tour event 2 years ago. Yeah, it was 2 years ago, last year, on the Palmer South course, right, at the K Club. So when you think of that, Purcell was 5th in that event, I do believe. Todd Clements was your winner. You saw guys like Tom McKibben, Alejandro Del Rey. Who else was up there, Tom? There was
so Clements beat McKibben, who then John Murphy was just behind him. Matteo Manacero 5th, Del Rey 5th, Dion Gurmachet 5th. So it's a leaderboard that's actually aged really well. Jong-Won Ko and Adrian Sadier just behind those as well. So I think as much as it is the other course, it's a positive, and obviously you're going to go into another reason why as well. Yeah,
if you look into extrapolating out Purcell's form, his last round was a 62 there. He was the 54-hole leader at the which one was it? We finished 18th. I think it was at the Irish Open next year, the Irish Challenge. 54-hole leader there. He's just been spiking for about 3 or 4 weeks now. And then in full research, trying to find K Club kind of correlation, there was a modest golf event in 2020 played at the Palmer South course. North course.
Yeah.
Palmer North, the one this week. That Purcell did win. So the last professional event that I could play found at this event, and that had a decent field of like McKibben. It wasn't like it was a 1-round event. It wasn't anything big. But looking into here and then what he's doing now, what he did in the Challenge Tour, 500s are available. Even 600s are out there, but 500 with a 6th place each way. I'm gonna bring that out to a top 20. This is kind of my angle. And normally when I find guys like this, I'm rarely seeing the spike in recent form in combination with some type of history, right? And on a tour like the Challenge Tour, sometimes it might even be lower to that. So I really like the 500s there with Purcell.
Yeah, normally when you're talking to me about 500s one and 700s one golfers, you'll tell me about someone that's just come out of the womb and like is warming up on the Czechoslovakian minor tour, right? Like this is actually a legitimate golfer who is second in his last Challenge Tour event, 17th for the British Challenge, 18th for the Irish Challenge. We talked about the fact that he was 5th on the South course last year, and you told me about a course where he's won as a professional at an event on this course. Then you look at the fact that actually the start of the season or the end of last year was really good, 7th, 6th. Like it's been a sustained period of form. Like this isn't just someone that's coming out of nowhere, right? So I think it's one of those ones where I think in the past we've had these events like the ISPS Handle where we've gone right, but there's not a big golfing quality, like they can really contend. This is obviously very different, but that's why I think what would it have been in the ISPS Handle, like 100 to 1?
Probably.
So it's a completely different event, right? So I don't hate the idea of taking 500 to 1 with places, thinking that there's going to be a strange, finisher on the leaderboard. Like they were more experienced players that did it in 2016, but you had some strange names. I mean, Bradley Dredge actually, I think, contended, maybe won the Irish Open the year before, whatever. But you had Sebastian Gross in 10th, Maximilian Keith was 5th, who wasn't really what Keith has been this year. Gregory Bordy 10th, Ricard Karlberg 10th, Richard Sterney 10th. So you get these. Matthew Southgate was 4th. And it's not, not a links test if you like. So you do get the strange results. And look, I think the upside's probably more a top 20 or whatever. And like you say, you're probably going to play down to those sort of things. But it's definitely an interesting name and certainly one you'll discuss, I think, tomorrow.
Yeah, I think we'll probably get a really good DFS price when we look into him. And your guy here, at 750 to 1. He's double the age of Purcell, I think. So
Yeah.
you go with the old timers at the long numbers.
Yeah, so I've actually got a pretty old card this week with Lawson in there as well. Soren Kjeldsen, look, full disclosure, I don't think he can win. I think that's the first thing I will say. Last professional win for Soren Kjeldsen, Sky?
Let's think, man. It had to be maybe the Irish Open.
The Irish Open in 2015,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
that's always a positive. And when you actually look at his form, like it's been solid, like 5th at the Scandinavian Mixed, 24th at Himmerland, 50th wasn't great at Czech Masters, but it's a massive golf course for him. 13th last week, where he opened 66 and shot weekend 65s. Strokes gained approach numbers have been insane. Like for someone of his like level at the moment, like 10th, 11th, 22nd, 7th, 15th, 47th, like 24th, 21st, 15th, 47th is definitely not him. 10th, 11th, 22nd, 7th, 24th, 21st. That's really solid. And then what I liked as well is you're not, as you've mentioned, you have to go back to 2016 for the last time someone actually played this event. There's not many people that have played it multiple times or the course multiple times. Kjeldsen has. 16th and 19th as well. So I think sneakily, he was only a couple of places off the top 10 here in 2016. I don't think it's too much to ask for him to get inside the top 10.
Yeah, his biggest 2 events this year really have come at courses where we knowingly are going to take the driver out of the hand, a 5th at the Scandinavian Mix, a 13th at the Omega. So when you get to this, it reminds me, except it's factual numbers, of Rafael Jacquelin when we bet him right at the British Masters last year, I think it was, and he came out and was like holding wedge shots after his irons were spiking. So I think that's the only time I've bet a guy that old at those odds before.
Yeah, like I could definitely see a way where he comes out like a 65, 64 on Thursday. Everyone goes, oh my God, Soren Kjeldsen's rolling about the years, showing the young people how to do it, and then shoots 70, 71, 72 to finish 47th. But I like just looking at the data and the fact that he's played so well for a decent period of time and has more course experience maybe than anyone but Padraig Harrington. Well, he's played the same amount of times as Padraig Harrington. Padraig Harrington just have better course form. I'm pretty happy to take him at like, what is it, 750 to 1 you said to me.
Yeah,
so
750s.
Yeah, I'm happy to take a chance on someone like Soren Kjeldsen.
Awesome. 2 guys that I'm going to round us out with, not on betting cards, but I will be talked tomorrow too. But for those that maybe only listen to the DFS preview and you're looking for, or only the betting preview and looking for potentially make the cut or top 40s, 2 guys from the Walker Cup are making their professional debuts this week. First being Irish kid Mark Power. Mark Power, last ranking in the Wagger rankings was 98th. We've seen him, I think he won an event early on in the year. Yeah, Battle at the Briars Creek. His only top 10. He did make the cut at the Irish Challenge and the Challenge Tour start the year before. Really hasn't kicked on all that much. Was decent in the Walker Cup overall. Somebody, when you get the Irish angle, you saw actually him come in lower odds than John Go. I think it's Go or Go. I was trying to listen.
Goff.
Goff, that's what it is.
Yeah.
John Goff. So Goff is the one that I was looking very into. He won the Australian Master of the Amateurs, which is normally like one of the more telling events overall in amateur golf. We've seen some really big names win that: David Micheluzzi, Aaron Wise, Sahith Theegala, Chun-An Yu. Just some really, really big names overall have won that event. So I think that's a telling sign. He then also won, I think it was the Irish Amateur earlier this year. And then in addition to that, he made the cut at the Belfry. He finished 39th at the British Masters. Was not that good at the Irish Challenge or the US Amateur. But yeah, he missed the cut. He was pretty bad at the amateur event, but I think overall his success in kind of this area of the world has been really big. He won the Lytham Trophy as well. The year before, Scottish Men's Open Championship was second. I just think he had a really strong pedigree of golf over here. And then there wasn't that many odds around the Walker Cup last week, but the one book offshore that posted odds had him the clear favorite for highest scorer last week on the GB&I team, which, that's a pretty, studded team. I think he was 4-1. I had tweeted that out last week. Do you know the Walker Cup, when they pick singles, is it like they throw a name out and then they pick the guy to match them, or do they throw in? Again, I don't expect you to know, but I was just trying to think through this.
No, I've never really thought about that. I didn't watch this weekend. That sounds like something that would be true though.
Well, because I only asked because he got sent out against Sargent on Sunday. He played all 4 matches, did really well. He lost to Sargent, 1-up on the 18th. And I think he was the clear one. He got thrown out first on the doubles too, and played against Sargent there too. And Sargent was the clear best guy in the U.S. this week. So to me, I think how am I pronouncing Goff?
Yeah,
John Goff. I think he's the one, and hopefully on DFS we get a good price because I'm really excited about him this week. He was as long as 15 to 100 to 1 on early this week. It's down to like thousands with the places. So I think top 40 is only like 3-1 over here right now. If a better top 40 comes out, I might jump onto that.
Yeah, the only reason I noticed Goff is because he'd played like one strokes gained metric like event, and he was 15th in approach that week, and that was that British Masters where he was 3rd going into the weekend. So that really caught my eye, and I love all the context you just added to that.
He was 3rd going into the weekend there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he took the lead at one point. Now I'm putting these things. That was John Goff, wasn't it?
Yeah. So he was 3rd after round 1, 3rd after round 2, and then he shot 76 on Saturday. So you're gonna bet him? Like you said you had one space on your card, and it's gonna be, who did you say earlier?
Well, I thought it might be Billy Horschel, but
yeah, no, yeah. Who cares about Horschel? Let's put John Goff on there. Like,
yeah. You're right. He was the guy that took the lead on Friday. I remember the amateur, Baroff was like, this amateur's taking the lead and you didn't bet him. I was like, heartbroken. And this is Goff, right? I mean, they don't show you like anything from like, I think they only play foursomes in Walker Cup. So they don't like show you who scored each, shot or anything. But he was their clear top guy. He's won in Ireland before. I think of thousands. Yeah, we're in time.
Yeah, like he's 24 as well, and like you say, he was ranked 14th. He was by far their most accomplished player. Like he was the only one that would actually get in on like merit on the US team. Like everyone else was kind of struggling, right? So I know Barclay Brown was popular based on kind of open championship stuff as well. But yeah. There was 4 matches of foursomes and 8 singles in the afternoon, and then Sunday was 4 matches of foursomes and 10 singles in the afternoon. So you're right, it's only foursomes. But yeah, like if you get chucked out with Gordon Sargent and you only lose 1-up, that's not much to be sniffed at. I mean, Sargent, what did he win every match?
I was workshopping a take that the U.S. team needed to take Gordon Sargent since Aberg got picked. Like maybe I think I would honestly take Sargent over JT right now if I was.
That doesn't bode very well for like Lowry was more egregious pick than JT. Take. But yeah. I mean Goff's in, right?
Yeah, Goff has to be in, absolutely. Okay. But let's leave some room to discuss some of the guys tomorrow. Baroff and Axis. Let's review our betting cards and we'll get out here.
Yeah, so for me, it's Adrian Moronk at 28-1 with the each way. Stuart Bjorn Ollison 66-1 with the each way. Joost Luiten 70-1 each way. Eddie Pepperell 80-1 each way. And Soren Kjeldsen at 750. Was that on the each way as well, Sky, or was that just outright?
I believe I included, let's see, that was the outright, because the one that had only 4 places must have got your tip, or 6 places must have got your tip early, because that was down to 200 in the States.
No, there you go. They're already running scared of Soren Kjeldsen in the places. So, you're going to have to go full win on Soren Kjeldsen.
Yep. So let me double check here as we talk. So make sure prices continue here for us. I think everything aligns still. Yep. So we are good to go. Okay. So we'll start with, again, all with 6 places. Alex Fitzpatrick, 55-1. Eddie Pepperell, 80-1. Guido Migliazzi, 100-1. Sean Crocker, 150. Sebastian Soderberg, 150. Connor Purcell, 500-1. I'm going to get the top 10 in addition to that 6-way each way, plus the top 20 on him. And then John Goff, 1,000-1. Man, that makes my heart feel good. And I couldn't let you have the deepest guy of the week. with the 6 places there, top 10 and top 20 on golf. You can probably wait to see as well if you get a juicy top 40 too for golf. Let's have him, take down Rory this week in kind of a big, Irish Open victory for the kid just turning pro. I mean, an amateur just won on their first start, on the LPGA. He's no Rose Zhang, but maybe make that corollary.
Lowry did it.
Yeah,
Lowry won the Irish Open as an amateur. So why can't John Goff?
Yeah, I mean, the stories, they're being written already, Tom, Perfect. Awesome.
Has Goff turned pro this week, though?
Yeah, I looked. I think they list them as amateurs, but in the entry list, him and Power are both listed as professional tournament invitations and not under the amateur.
Okay.
So I think most of them wait for the Walker Cup and then they turn pro.
Okay. So he's not going to do the Shane Lowry, but he's going
to keep his money. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Nice.
Yep. So perfect. Well, cool. Long show, Ryder Cup talk, Irish Open talk, betting side, big cards this week. But really excited for what's ahead these next few weeks leading into the Ryder Cup. So appreciate you as always, Tom, and best of luck, everybody. And you can catch us on the DFS show tomorrow, myself, Bear Off, and Axis, and that'll be up tomorrow evening. So thank you again, Tom.
Yeah, thank you, Sky, and enjoy the podcast tomorrow. Looking forward to listening to you guys talk DFS and really extend the conversation on the Irish Open.
Yep. All right, boys. Take care. Good luck.